episode of DrWhitty Today, the most important conversation on mental health and how it affects every aspect of our lives. Today, we present The Mind Matters, prioritizing mental health in today's world. Help us welcome to the platform our honored guest, Dr. Clarissa Harris, a native of Monroe, Louisiana, holds a Bachelor of Science in Health Administration from Texas Southern University, a Master of Science in Education Administration from Prairie View A&M, a Master of Philosophy and a PhD in Health Psychology from Walden University. With nearly 14 years of education and mentorship experience, Dr. Harris is passionate about addressing mental health issues in communities and workplaces, mentoring young women, and fostering leadership and personal growth among high school students. Dr. Harris currently works as a health, safety, and environmental specialist lead in the energy sector, where she oversees emergency response, risk management, and safety procedures. She also manages a medical response team and facilitates learning teams to mitigate workplace hazards. Dedicated to promoting mental health well-being, she develops programs and conducts training to empower individuals and organizations. Dr. Harris also enjoys cycling, discovering coffee shops and wineries, and traveling to destinations like Greece, Bali, and Italy. Listeners and viewers here and at home, please welcome our host, Dr. Whitty. Good evening, good evening, good evening. How is everybody out there doing? I hope everybody is great, doing well, considering anything and everything that one might have on their plate. So today we're going to be talking about, as you've seen at the top of the program, we're going to be talking about mental health and how it's important to every aspect of our life. We have the awesome Dr. Clarissa Harris with us, and she's going to be dropping some nuggets that we can take home and we can make sure that we apply those types of things to our lives and know how to look out for certain things so that we can help each other. So Dr. Harris, how are you feeling?
Hi, Dr. Whitty. Great. And thank you for having me this afternoon. I'm feeling great today.
All right. All right. So I know you said your day was long, but it's getting longer, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
All right.
Mhm.
So we've had this on the program for a while. I talked to Dr. Harris before about mental health. We had a great conversation. And so as you guys know, we brought another mental health professional on last show, which was very great. So check that out. Dwayne was on here. So you'll see him in the commercial. But today it's all about what we're going to do and talk about mental health with Dr. Harris. So before we really get into the discussion, I want to tell you, Dr. Harris, I've been thinking about adding a segment to DrWhitty Today and called How Are You Feeling? And so that's why I started off by asking you, how are you feeling? Because a lot of times we don't ask people, but then when we do ask people, we don't really stand by to really wait to see what their response is to the question. So what do you have to say about that? You know, like when people say, are you okay? And then people just say, yeah, I'm good, or I'm fine. What do you say to that?
Well, I would say that we as people, humans, we do need to ask each other questions as like even when I'm walking into work every morning, people do stop to say, "Hey, how are you doing?" And sometimes just being rushed into the workplace and not having coffee, you don't even sometimes have enough time to just think about it. Like, I'm just getting out of traffic. Someone may have cut me off while I'm coming into the office. So, I think it's a good thing that people do. Ask you how your day is going, just as you have with getting on the show today. So I think it's a very, very good question. My day was actually busy today. I thought I would be running a little behind, but actually I was a little early. But asking that question makes me stop and think about how was my day. It was great, but it was very busy. But so thank you for the question.
Great. I
Mhm.
really like that you said that you had to stop and think about it. And so that's when you say that, that's what makes me know and believe that we have to be prepared to wait for someone to respond to that question. Because if I just say, Dr. Harris, are you okay? and I don't stand by to wait for your response, how can I actually be of support to you in case you're not okay, or you're not feeling up to par, if you will. So I like that you said, well, wait a minute, I have to stop and I have to think about how my day was and how I should answer that. And many times when we ask people, we don't stop to think that they may have to wait a minute to think about, well, how is my day actually going? How do I actually feel? And then once we listen, prepare ourselves to listen, because I shared last week, I remember someone asked the person if they were okay, and the person really downloaded how they were feeling. And the other person on the receiving end said, wow, I will never ask a person, are they okay again, without really being prepared to sit there and listen to whether or not they're okay. That was a lesson, because we can just nonchalantly throw something out and really not really have any good intention about it, actually hearing if someone's okay or not. It's just something that we do. So that's why this conversation tonight is important. So I don't know if you watched the show, but this show is more on, okay, mental health, not so much as us just talking, excuse me, us just talking. Or I would put it this way, it's dealing with the fact that you might need a mental health professional, whereas last week it was like, well, no, it could be somebody who just can see signs that you need to talk to someone, or we need to talk about asking, how are you feeling, so that we know how to support you and the resources that you may need to get. And you may not need a mental health professional. You might just need a person to listen to what is on your heart. You might just need a counselor, or just something other than, somebody feeling like, oh, I'm crazy or whatever. And so we wanted to clear up what mental health really means, because a lot of people think, oh, mental health, something's wrong with me, I need to go see a psychiatrist. Mental health is a lot more than that. So we'll talk about a different side this week. So first, Dr. Harris, define for us in your terms, what is mental health?
Mental health, in my terms, is when someone is experiencing anxiety, or they're going through depression symptoms, or stressful situations, and they don't have an outlet. They don't know what to do. So for me, mental health is important. It's important to seek guidance, or talk to a counselor or a therapist, because we experience thoughts throughout the day, thousands of thoughts, whether they're good thoughts or bad thoughts. We experience a lot of sometimes negative things come to our minds. And so my perception of it is, when we have those experiences of having thoughts that come to our minds that are not intact, or not positive thoughts, then we may need to seek someone of a higher profession, or someone that can actually give us positive feedback, or someone that actually specializes in mental health, to just help to encourage us, or give us solutions for the issues that we may be going through, or the issues that we may be facing at that time. So mental health is a variety of different elements.
All right, thank you. Now, in your experience, what are some of the most common misconceptions about mental health, and how can we work to dispel them?
Yes. So as I was writing my dissertation the last couple of years, I came across where some of my participants in my study was actually, some of the older participants in my study were often told that you're crazy if you were to go and talk to someone, or you don't need counseling, you can just go talk to a pastor at the church. And so a lot of the older participants just always felt like they wanted to go with what their grandparents or their older aunts or older women in the family felt like they should go and just talk to the pastor about what's bothering them, talk to, someone in their family. Mental health wasn't something in our culture that we relied on a whole lot, because it was actually a misconception. They didn't really understand it, like my grandmother or my older aunts. They really didn't quite understand the definition of mental health treatment. And so they thought that they needed to always just be the strong one, or go and talk to pastor. He can figure it out for you. You don't need to go see anyone, because if you do, you're considered crazy and they just want to put you on medication and things like that. So those are some of the misconceptions in the African American community that when I was researching, I found from some of my participants that they were just told or talked to about mental health.
Exactly. Thank you. And even as you was talking, I was thinking, you said crazy. We also hear terms that if you go to seek mental health, that you must be weak. That is a big one in the military. If you go to see someone in mental health, you must be weak. So a lot of people would not go to mental health just so they could appear to not be weak. So it's a lot of misconception up there. And it's interesting to me that you mentioned how people would say, oh, well, just go and talk to the pastor. And I was just having a conversation earlier today where someone was telling me that they were talking to a family member, and their thought was, hey, I'll just go and talk to the pastor. And a lot of times, for one, can tell you that the pastor, in a lot of cases, is not. And I know, people may get upset about it, but it's just the truth. Some are not qualified
Absolutely.
to deal with the things that you may need support in. And a lot of times, what end up happening is people go to pastors and they tell them this, whatever their situations are, and they're not equipped to really deal with it. And so people end up being scarred and marred.
Absolutely.
So it is good to have a conversation like this. And pastors have to be able to tell congregants, hey, I'm not qualified in that area, but here's a resource, or have other resources, because it's nothing like if you're not qualified. I mean, it's just like eating. If you go out to a restaurant, you don't want, I'll just use me. You don't want me back there, preparing these things on the menu and I have no idea what I'm doing. You want the person back there that knows how to cook those particular items to the taste that you prefer, and so that you can have an enjoyable meal. So it's the same thing. If you have something going on, you want somebody that's qualified, somebody that's studied up on that, who can assist you in the ways that you need to be assisted. So I'm glad you brought that up, because we as a community especially have to do better with mental health, and know that just blurting out, or just, well, I'm gonna just talk to my buddy or whatever. It may be a good idea to talk about certain things, but we have to know and be aware of what's going on, and know when we need to take it to the next level.
Absolutely. Because um, the counselors and the therapists, they've went to school for it. So they have the education, they have the experience, because this is their job. This is what they deal with on a daily basis, all day, every day. So when I've been told from some of my participants that my grandmother or my aunt or a cousin or someone older in my family just say, won't you go and just talk to someone at the church? Won't you go talk to an elder? Won't you talk to pastor? But as you just indicated and mentioned, that pastor may or may not have the experience or the knowledge for mental health. So I think, in my personal opinion, that one should actually seek someone that already has the experience and the education, because they would know, they would have the expertise in giving that patient, or that the person that's coming to see them, expertise in whatever they're facing or whatever they're going through.
Exactly. Thank you. Um, What role does mental health play in our overall well-being, and why is it important to prioritize it as much as our physical health?
Um, my answer to that, Dr. Woody, is mental health is critical. It's so important. Um, it's just the way we think about things, the things that we listen to, whether it's on the radio, whether it's on social media. Um, it's just it's critical. It's important, and it's paramount that we focus on how we feel, and it's not just dismissed. Just as, for an example, I work out. I work out a lot. I enjoy working out, and not only do I work out, but I also have to try and eat healthy or as clean as I possibly can. So the same thing with your mind. You have to adjust your mind. You have to read books on self care or talk to someone that can actually give some profound information on stress, on depression, on PTSD, on anxiety, because mental health is real. Is absolutely is real. So that would be my answer to that question.
All right. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So, can you share some strategies for managing mental health during particularly stressful periods, such as job transitions or during a personal crisis?
Yes. So if someone is working, just say in the workforce like myself, talk to your human resources department, because your human resource department may have an employee assistant program, and your employee assistant program could provide those resources that you're needing to go and talk to a counselor. However, if maybe for an example, if you're not working somewhere where your employer can provide those services for you, there's also government assistance programs where people that receive government assistance can reach out to Health and Human Services, and they can also provide some services as far as mental health, as far as counseling, things of that sort. I've had family members that have actually used the Health and Human Resources resources and have found some free services that they can actually just talk to someone for 30 minutes. I mean, 5 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes when you're having a really bad day, or maybe just a couple of days, it will make a tremendous difference. And especially talking to someone that has the expertise in the field, not just a friend or not just a family member, but someone that actually has experience in what you're dealing with is very important.
Exactly. Mental health, it's important to me, and it has become more and more important to me. And here's why: because when I spent some years in the military, you already know, so I won't go over that. But I remember even before in high school where one of the students committed suicide. Also, in the military, I had a colleague who also committed suicide. And the reason why mental health is important is because when I used to do briefings about suicide prevention, I would always share my experience with one of my colleagues who um, basically he was a person who appeared happy-go-lucky, everything's okay. He always had everybody laughing, things like that. And so I remember telling somebody that one day I saw him and he was the same way he had always been, but something didn't sit well with me, and I thought something is not right with him on this particular day. But for just looking at him, I just thought, well, maybe it's just me, because I didn't have no reason to suspect that he was not okay. It was just intuition, I guess. So, but I say this to say it's important for people to be aware and to say something when they think something, because what happened was several days later, that colleague basically committed suicide. Um, and so that stuck with me, that what would have happened had I said something. because in my mind I thought, oh, you crazy, nothing's wrong, everybody's gonna think you just crazy. But then I think, well, what would have happened had I said something to him, asked him a question, or said something to his leadership so they could ask him a question? But he, so basically he committed suicide. So I tell people, don't take things for granted. Not only that, I had an incident actually just this weekend where someone came to me and said, was laughing, and I said, well, what are you laughing at? And he told me that somebody said that they were getting ready to go commit suicide, and I said, hey, that's not funny. um, we need to make sure that that's not what they're thinking. But if people say that, that might be what they're thinking. So even if you think it's funny, or or people are kidding, you have to make sure that you say something and check on that person, just in case that might be what they wish to do. The other reason why I shared it last week was I had a situation at work myself where something that happened. I'm not going to go into the story, but long story short, I had a certain way I was feeling about the whole situation. I went about my day as I normally would, thinking that, this is okay. So I started closing down um, my training area. And then all of a sudden, I just, I felt like something was, I was bothered, but this time I felt it differently, like almost like it was just all throughout my body, and it was uncomfortable. So I said to myself, something's going on. Maybe I should call somebody. And then I began to say to myself, oh, no, nothing's wrong with you. You're all right. But then after I continued to feel it, I said, no, I'm going to call somebody. So I made a phone call. And the first thing that happened when I don't remember even saying anything when the person answered the phone, but they were like, are you okay? And so when I heard them say that, it was like I couldn't even say anything. I couldn't even speak words. It was like I just all of a sudden just broke down and just, cried and stuff like that. I couldn't even talk for at least maybe 3 to 5 minutes about what was actually happening. So, but after I got all that out, I began to talk about the situation and everything. And then, everything calmed down and I went about my day. But I share that to say, you have to know what's going on in your body. You have to have resources that you can reach out to, um, so that you can, you can, you can have your mental health in a place where it should be, is what I'm trying to say. You should be at a level where you know what's going on with yourself, and that you are feeling okay about whatever situation, wherever you are in your life. So that's why mental health is important to me, because a lot of times we go on and we say, oh, I'm good. So now when people say I'm good, I ask them, what does that mean?
Mhm.
Because then, like you said earlier, it causes them to think. It doesn't let them off the hook with I'm good, because a lot of people will say, I'm good, I'm fine. But then when you ask them, what does that mean, or what does it look like? Then they have to think about it. How can I answer this? And so that's why mental health is important to me.
Absolutely. It's very important to me. And as I thought about my topic and what I wanted to write about when I was in school, what stuck out to me the most was what we're facing, every day in our world. And to me, what was so important was mental health. I mean,
Mhm.
every day someone is dealing with something that they may have not chosen, it may have not been something that they wanted to go through, but still they're going through issues and problems. And I'm happy that we're having a conversation about mental health, because these conversations about how people feel, about what they're thinking, it's impairment. It's very important, because people do need to talk to someone. They need to talk to a professional. I promote mental health in every aspect that I possibly can in the workplace, with my family, with my friends. I'm always talking about how important mental health is. And again, I'm very pleased and I'm very happy that we're having a conversation this afternoon, just talking about the mind matters, what you think, how you feel, what you talk about, what you watch on TV, and how it could affect you. Even the things that you watch on TV affects you. I don't even like, for an example, watching a lot of crime shows, because I felt like watching a lot of crime shows sometimes had given me anxiety. I'm locking doors, I'm hearing sounds, and I'm like, okay, what's that? So now I'm just being more cognizant of what I'm thinking, the thoughts, what I'm watching, the places where I go. I'm just being more cautious, because I really think and feel and know that mental health, it really matters. And it
Exactly.
doesn't matter who you are, what color you are, it does. And it affects all of us, no matter your age, no matter your race. It affects everyone differently.
Thank you. Well, excuse me. I just wanted to add to that. Like you said, it's important for us to be aware, and it's important for us to know what triggers us. And so, when you were talking about you didn't want to watch crime shows, then that was a particular trigger, right? And I can relate because I don't like to watch. Now, I can watch some horror that's maybe a little comical or whatever, but for me, I'm aware that if I watch these crazy it's real different from when I was a kid. The horror that we watch versus some of the things that they produce today, um, that it for me, it triggers me. So I don't go see a lot of these horror films and stuff like that. Not I don't say anything about the people who do, but for me, I recognize that that's a trigger for me, and so I don't watch that. So it's important to recognize what will take you to a place that's not good for you mentally. And I agree. For me to keep my peace or my mental health at a level that I feel like I'm okay, I got to make sure that I don't open the doors, if you will,
Hmm.
doors or windows to certain things that would trigger me and have me, like you said, we have to make sure that we're aware of what we're thinking, because what we think of, how we say, if we continue to think something, that we're going to behave that way. And so, how does our mental health affect our behavior?
Um, I think our mental health overall does affect our behavior. It could be things that may have happened in your childhood, things that you may have seen growing up in your household. It affects how you treat people. It affects what you grew up listening to, what you grew up being a part of. For an example, I know a couple of years ago, and let me go back a little bit. So I've seen movies. Of course, a lot of people have seen violent movies, but I saw a video not too long ago, a couple of years ago, where this guy from my hometown, he just killed two people, and it was video. It was recorded. I didn't know the people, but I knew the people that knew the people. And when I tell you that something as tragic as me watching that video, I saw the video at least twice. I actually had anxiety. And you hear about, people going through anxiety, or people going through depression and things like that. But when I saw that video, I saw it twice, and I couldn't even sleep. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't get my mind, my thoughts together. So I just know that what you watch, what you listen to, even as you're growing up, it's important to protect your children, because I'm, older now, but the things that I know that I saw on that video, oh my God, I felt like it really scarred me in some ways. I was afraid. I had a lot of anxiety just from seeing something that was so horrific on that video. I didn't know the people, but again, I knew the people that knew those people. And so it left me with, like, why did this happen? I'm thinking about it as I'm driving to work, or I'm thinking about it at work. And we just never know the things that we can watch, we can talk about, or we see on a daily basis, how it could affect our thinking in our minds. And I'll tell you another thing too. Um, I've always had to travel for my job. So within the last maybe 2 or 3 years, I've noticed I've started having like panic attacks on that plane. And I've been traveling for years, but all of a sudden within the last 3 years, Dr. Woody, when I'm on a plane, I pray before I go on the plane, but I'm very nervous when the plane goes through the turbulence. I'm very nervous to where I actually went to the doctor, and I saw a counselor about it because I was like, why is this all of a sudden happening to me? I've traveled thousands of times before. I went numerous places, and all of a sudden now it's like I have so much anxiety before I get on the plane, while I'm on the plane, and especially when the plane is taking off or landing. It's it's very nerve-wracking to me. And me just talking to a counselor about it, just telling her how I felt about it, and talking through some talking points, she actually gave me some really good information on how to cope with it. So
Great. And that's an example of just knowing how something is affecting you or
exactly.
your mental health. And you could have sat there and continued to be stressed out, continued to have anxiety, but you said, wait a minute, I shouldn't feel this way, but I do.
Mhm.
So let's see if I can figure out what's going on here so that I can make sure I'm aware and do what I need to do to prevent from experiencing these same types of things. So that to me, that's a part of self-awareness. You
Yes.
recognize that something
Mhm.
was going on and that it was perhaps something that you wasn't sure what you should do about it. So you used your resources and got the help that you needed.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
So how important is transforming our thinking and our behavior as it pertains to mental health?
It is critical. It is very important that we change the way we think. And a lot of times, the only way we can change the way we think is by seeking counseling, by seeking the help from a therapist, because he or she could actually help to guide you and give you homework to do, or give you certain books to read. Hey, you should read this, or you should do this. And it's for me, it's been profound. It's been very helpful because I've been given self-care books, reading articles and things like that to just help me to cope with the anxiety that I do experience when I get on a plane now. So
Great, great. All right. Well, before we go to our commercial break, I'm going to ask you one more question.
okay.
Um, and I think we talked a little bit about it, but we'll just talk about a little bit about how people have been and still are and still may be in the future affected by social media, how their mental health is being affected by social media, because I'm sure you have heard about the bullying that goes on with not only children but also adults who commit suicide or who does other things besides committing suicide. um, how important is to be aware and set up protective barriers for yourself and when it comes to social media?
Um, to answer that question, I would say for me, the barriers that I've set up for myself is for my Instagram. I don't follow anything that is negative. I don't follow people that just says a lot of inappropriate things. I try to follow people that are inspirational. I follow people that actually do the things that I'm into, and that is counseling, that's wellness, that's working out. So I try to follow people and social media accounts where I can actually get the positive solutions that I want for myself. So I think that social media, the platforms that we do have, I think that for a lot of people, it could be used in a great way, but it can be used in a very harmful way. It just all depends on that individual, because people on social media, just as you mentioned before, they can be bullies. You know, they can say one thing and mean something totally different. Um, I just think sometimes it's not used appropriately, social media. I think that parents do need to monitor their children's Facebook page or their teenagers' Instagram page or Twitter page, because it's so much information out there that
Don't forget TikTok. That's
TikTok,
the big one.
yes, TikTok, yes, that is a huge social media platform that a lot of kids, our youth, are on all day, every day. So all of that information that's on there is just going into their minds. It's going into their heads, and they're believing those things, whether they are good or whether some of that information is bad for them. They're believing it because nowadays the things that kids do is they have their phones in their hands all day, every day, or a tablet. It used to be when I was growing up that you would have to go get a book or go to the library. It's totally different now. You can pick up your phone at any time of the day or the night. It can be 3 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. You have kids on social media before they even get ready to go to school in the morning. It can be such a distraction. And for me, I've had to limit myself, saying that, I'm going to give myself maybe an hour, because I can get on social media, on Instagram, on TikTok, and I'm on there looking at recipes, looking at things for like hours. And I need to get other things done. So for me, I limit myself. I give myself some time to say, hey, let me push back from the social media, because I'm constantly reading and reading what's going on in everybody's mind. And sometimes it's just not good.
Exactly. Sometimes it's just too much.
It
Like
is.
it's what they're going through is being transferred to you, and
Absolutely.
that's what that
And it can be damaging.
work. Yeah, it can be real damaging, and that's why that quote that was going. Oh, there it is again. If we
Mhm.
don't transform our thinking and our behavior, we transfer it to other people because we're not self-aware. And then when we become self-aware and we don't go and get the help that we need, we start to, oh well, I'm okay, but we're actually begin to transfer the way we think and behave onto other people. And so that's why mental health is so very important, because if you ever expect for things to change in your house, your lineage, your family, whatever you want to call it, somebody that may be dealing with that particular certain thing has to go and get the help that they need, and then they can share that with other people that may be going through the same thing, because sometimes people don't even know why they think the way they think, why they behave the way they behave. But then if they do research, they find out that, oh, it's because I'm not the first one. It's this was it was history. It was throughout the lineage, or so and so suffered with this, and that's why when you go to the doctors, they say, "Do you have a history of in your
Yes.
family?" And
Mhm.
so you begin to find out the things that have gone on. It doesn't mean that necessarily something is bad. It just means that, oh, something different has to happen so that this doesn't continue through our family line. So that's another reason why it's important um, to make sure we're self-aware and that we're willing to do what Ian Van Zant said calls do the work.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate us having this conversation and discussing and talking about the mind matters, because it really does. So as long as we're having conversations like this, and we're inviting people to stop by and to give their input or to just listen in, I mean, we're spreading the word, and that's what we want to do, is to spread the word and create positive social change for cities and communities around the world.
All right. So with that, Dr. Harris,
Mhm.
we are not just Dr. Harris, but also those of you that are out there tuning in to Dr. Whitty today. I want to thank you first of all. What we're going to do now is we're going to go to a short commercial break, and we're going to come back. And when we come back, we're going to drop the link, the invite link, in the chat. And we want to see if there is one or two people out there who wants to come on stage and tell us what mental health, why mental health is important to you, and tell us how you are feeling. So when we come back, we're going to drop that in the chat, um, drop it in actually during the commercial break. And if you're out there and you want to come up and give us, your take on mental health, or you have a question for me or Dr. Harris or both, we want you to click on that link so that we can bring you up on stage and that we can have a short, brief conversation with you before we go on to our next questions. All right. So we will be right back. So do not go away. Make sure you're here when we come back. Life is a beautiful, complex journey, but amidst the hustle and grind, how often do we stop and ask, are you okay? Introducing Are You Okay? A mental health and well-being check-in and conversation, the groundbreaking book by Dwayne Wiggins Jr. With a sincere heart, Dwayne takes you on a journey that reminds us all mental health matters. This powerful guide encourages open dialogue about mental well-being, showing how vulnerability fosters healing, connection, and understanding. It's a call to reflect, reach out, and break the stigma around mental health. Together, we can build a community rooted in empathy, support, and understanding. Start your journey today. Pick up Are You Okay? And spark meaningful conversations that truly matter. Because when we check in on each other, we grow stronger together. Presented by Dr. Timothy Felton and Teron Coleman, Black Boys Matter explore the vital role of parental presence in raising Black sons. As Black boys navigate persistent obstacles and challenges, fostering authentic, trusting, and nurturing relationships through positive engagement becomes crucial. Each chapter of this profound manuscript leaves readers with greater understanding and deliberate techniques for addressing the issues these young men face. Get your copy wherever books are sold. Dr. Candicia Randolph's book, The Black American Church, Leadership Dispensation and Challenges, critically examines leadership within the Black church, drawing from historical and anthropological perspectives. It identifies challenges faced by this vital institution in the Black American community and proposes practical solutions. The church's impact on Black culture and leadership is explored, emphasizing its historical context and influence over nearly 5 centuries. Through research and data, the manuscript aims to enhance the church's effectiveness and cultural relevance. Get your copy where books are sold today. All right, we are back. So again, if you are out there, we want you to join in. Click on that link. We want you to come up so that you can talk to us about why mental health is important to you, and to see if you might have a question for myself or Dr. Harris, or a comment about how this particular segment or episode is being a blessing to you today. So, Dr. Harris, I know we both did research. My research stemmed from, now I want to get this right because every time I think about it, I have to think about it because it's such a long topic. But one of the things that started my research was the fact that I discovered, excuse me, that, and I don't think it was a secret, but when I say our the African American community or people of color, what is it, Black and Indigenous people of color, we don't have access to the same health care as our counterparts. In particular, a part of my research, I actually had a video that played as I was defending my dissertation, and it was a video of a pregnant woman who was given birth, and she wasn't giving birth yet, but she was at the hospital and she complained about back pain. And, the doctor sort of blew it off. And then she got worse. And another doctor who was Black came in and said, "Oh, she's suffering from this," and then gave the nurses instructions. To make a long story short, it's interesting how cultural sensitivity plays a role in mental health. So, my question is address how cultural backgrounds influence mental health perceptions and access to care. And the reason why I say that is because during my research, I discovered that there are people who really believe that Black women, and I can't even say Black men, Black women and Hispanic women, that when they say that they're in pain, they're exaggerating their level of pain. And so when they go to the hospital and say, "I'm in pain," it's like, "Oh, here we go again." And medications that are given to our counterparts are not even offered to you as a Black female. A lot of Black females have lost their lives giving birth as a result of not being properly cared for. So I just want you to talk a little bit on why cultural sensitivity is important in mental health. Uh, yeah, in mental health and access to care.
Well, in my opinion, in doing the research that I conducted during my dissertation, I think that cultural um, awareness is very important. A lot of times, African American women. My dissertation is entitled "Understanding the Experiences of African American Women Who Experience Mental Health Treatment," where I found out that many times African American women don't go to the doctor or don't seek the help is because they are either afraid or they don't trust the providers. I found this out from my participants. Mostly all of my participants did not trust their physician. And a couple of my participants even told me that when they went to look for a provider, that they went to look for someone that actually looked like them because they did not trust just from hearing about the our past history, with the Tuskegee study. Many of my participants, actually, one of them even brought that up and said that, well, do you remember the study that was done on those African American men? Well, I don't feel comfortable with going to someone that is not Black because they're not going to understand me. They're going to think that I'm not telling the truth or I'm just complaining. So if I found someone that looked like me, then that person would understand what I'm going through. So that's what I found during my research study, is people tend to the people that I studied, the African American women that I researched and I talked to, they had a perception because they did not trust the providers in mental health. They didn't trust the providers, their doctors, their primary physicians, because they heard stories and they have heard horror stories on um, not giving the best care or not having even access to the best care. So they were just, wanting someone that looked like them, or they didn't go because they just didn't feel comfortable. They didn't think that they would get the same um, good health care as someone of another color. So that was some
Ex-
profound information. Yes,
That's in the research because
it is.
even as I did my research, my topic was cultural humility
Mm-hmm.
as a predictor of intention to leave,
Mm-hmm.
um, moderated by authentic leadership. But the important term is cultural humility,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to do a definition and comparison,
Mm-hmm.
because there are a lot of different terms like cultural sensitivity, cultural competence, cultural diversity, cultural humility. There's a lot of different terms, and so I had to. I often, when I talk about it, I talk about it to explain to people what the difference is. And so, some people, I'm sure there are people out there who have had training on cultural competence.
Mm-hmm.
You learn something about, different cultures. You maybe on your job you have different programs where maybe one day you went and you learned about this culture, tasted some food, did a dance, wore some clothes, and put on a program or whatever. But you learned about you it was the program was titled cultural competence, and
Mm-hmm.
so researchers argued that that term should be more. Well, basically, some researchers created the term cultural humility because they believe that nobody could just be all-knowing in terms of knowing somebody else's culture, because there are people who don't even understand their own culture and still have to learn. So basically, what I tell people is cultural competence. Think of it as, oh, I went to a class, been there, done that, got a mug, got a T-shirt. I'm now the expert on uh, uh, cultural matters or cultural affairs, and we know that just doesn't happen because things change all the time. There's always something new, and so what cultural humility says, okay, I do not know everything there is to know about your culture. I don't even know everything there is to know about my own, and I'm aware of it, and I'm willing to put aside my conceptions or preconceived ideas and learn about your culture and matters that are important to you. And that is what cultural humility is. That means I'm culturally humble enough to say I don't know everything, and I'm willing to learn so that I can have better relationships with uh, people that I meet every day and people that I work with every day. And so I think that that is important. And that's why I asked you about why cultural sensitivity matters in terms of
It
mental health. Go
it
ahead.
does. And I would also just like to add, even at my job now, um, I am a part of the Black Employee Network. But then I also wanted to be a part of other groups, such as the Asian Network, other ethnic groups. I wanted to be a part of because I wanted to learn about their culture. Because when you learn about someone else's cultures, you can sit down and you can have a conversation with them, and it shows that you care. So when I attend the Asian Network social, and I learn about their different foods, I learn about the way they dress, or maybe the holidays that they celebrate. I'm able to have a meaningful conversation with my colleagues that are Asian. So not just African American or the Black culture, but I'm wanting to know and to find out about other people cultures, because their cultures, in my opinion, everyone cultures matter. Where you come from, the type of foods that you eat, just what you even believe in, so that I could have a meaningful conversation with that individual or individuals just about them, and also vice versa. I've had people to send me a DM and say, "Hey, I'm going to attend the Black Employee Network social. Are you going to be there? Are you going to bring a dish?" Because I'd like to taste, something that you may be preparing. And so I just think that's the way that we learn each other's cultures and each other backgrounds.
All right. So besides, I think you said AEP
Yes.
or EAP, sorry, Employee Assistance Program. Besides EAP, What are some ways employers and employees can help foster a mentally healthy work environment?
I think by having their leaders to in my profession, in my job, to have their leaders to go to educational programs that discuss mental health and the ways you deal with your employees that may be dealing with mental health. So I would say just having our leaders at our jobs more competent about the importance of mental health, sharing their experiences, and sharing what they may have learned at the different seminars that they may have attended. For me, I think that's a plus because when my manager is very cognitive of my experiences or what I'm going through, because he does have to we do monthly plannings and things like that, goal settings and things like that. And we do talk about mental health. Clarissa, how was your day? How not just your day, but how's this project going? How do you feel about it? You know, are you prepared for it? I mean, do you think this is something that you would like to continue to do within the next 2 to 3 years? But then again, it depends on the manager and if he or she has went through any form of mental health training. I think is crucial. I think it's very important for leaders to go through some form of mental health training just for their employees.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
The role of self care. So, tell us about some simple but effective self care practices, like such as exercising and mindfulness, and also journaling that listeners can adopt.
Yes. So we tend to have socials. So we'll get together in at my company, our different leaders, different organizations, staff units. We'll get together and we'll have an ice cream social outside. So that's just one way of just say myself and someone from a different BU, business unit or staff unit, gets to gets to just have a conversation over ice cream, or just have a simple conversation like ask questions. What business? What do you do? Who do you are? Who do you report to? Things of that sort. Also, journaling is very important. I try to journal as much as possible. I'll go to the park, take my journal, sit out there, and just listen to the birds, or just listen to um, the children playing, and just write down my thoughts, how I'm feeling at that particular time. And this is something that my therapist actually shared with me. Just write down how you feel, write down, just takes a few minutes of your day, and this is for you. This is something that you give yourself. This is something that you don't really get to share with anyone unless you want to, but this is something that you have to take and own. So I get out there with my journal and I'll go to the park and I'll just write. I'll write how my day was, how I'm feeling, whether I'm having a good day, whether I'm not having a good day, and then just what happened during that day. Also, for me, I like to work out. So when I was in school and being, as you would know, Dr. Woody, going through the process of getting your PhD is a very, very stressful and challenging time. I would also journal during that time. I would also, sometimes you have to just get away from it all. And I would, I have notes and notes in my phone or notes in my notebook on how I felt that day. Like this was a really hard day. My chair or my committee really challenged me today. So journaling, working out, just doing some things that you love to do is very beneficial, very helpful. Whatever it is that you like to do, I would say do it. whatever that
Exactly.
may be. As long as it's good, as long as it's positive, as long as it's not hurting or injuring anyone, go ahead. Read books, self-care books. I actually have one that I'm about to start reading right now. A self-care book. It's called Matters of the Heart, by Thelma Bryant. So she's a person, she's a psychologist. And so she's written a book that I'm very interested in. And so I'll take the book to work, and on my break, I'll just go to my car or go to another conference room, and I'll just read a chapter or two. So reading self-help books, they help as well.
Yes.
Hmm.
Those are some of the things that I do. I like to read.
Hmm.
Sometimes I like to listen to nature sounds
Yes.
in my ear because it relaxes me. I also have a particular artist that I listen to, and the funny thing is I can't even. I always mess her name up when I try to pronounce it, but it's probably music that you know I'm probably not expected to listen to, or people would probably be like, "What is that you're listening to?" But the reason why I listened to it is because one day when I heard it, it brought me great peace. Like, you know how you can just feel peace come down and just
Yes.
soothe your mind,
Hmm.
and penetrates your body, and it puts you at rest. And so when I heard it, I downloaded her, and I just whenever I have those stressful moments, or I feel stress running through my body, or maybe I'm feeling fearful about something, anxiety, I will go to sleep listening to her. And every time, I will go to sleep and wake up, and whatever it was that was bothering me
Hmm.
is usually gone. So that's a practice that I do. Also, swimming. Exercise used to be the thing for me because I would feel all sorts of anxiety and tension or anger or whatever. And I would work out for like, now, nobody has to do it as long as I'm saying I did it, but I used to work out for like 2 hours.
Oh,
And
wow.
I mean, afterwards, I would just feel great.
Hmm.
And so I kept this regimen up for a long, long, long time, for years. And I'm actually getting ready to get back into it because I've had increased anxiety and stress levels that I don't need on me. So I felt like, okay, well, that was good for me. So I'm going to go back to doing that again, not only for my physical, but also my mental health as
Yes.
well. So, as you said, it is important.
It is, and I would like to speak to that again. So even when I was writing my dissertation, I would oftentimes, because sometimes you do need to just take a break from research and reading articles. So a lot of times I would just say, okay, I'm going to take a break and I'm going to the gym. So when I go to the gym, my mind, I'm listening to music, and my mind is just off of what I'm, dealing with at that moment, whether it's work or writing, research, and reading. And so for me, going to the gym and working out and just pushing myself, it actually benefited me. So when I got back to my office or I got back home, I was able to sit down and find some mistakes, find issues where, oh, I don't think I want to say this, or this is what my chair is meaning. So sometimes you just have to push away from whatever you're doing, and then find something that you enjoy doing, and then come back to it. So that's another way that I've just implemented, doing something that takes my mind away from just working hard, researching, reading, and doing something else that's totally different, and then coming back to work on whatever I was doing at first and mastering it at that point. So, mhm.
Oh, I apologize. I think I was muted. I don't even know where I left off or if anybody heard anything I said, but I have another question for you before we close out. Thank you for all of your insight on mental health. I'm going to, what I said was we didn't have that brave soul out there that wanted to come up on the platform and talk to us about how they're feeling or to talk about what mental health means to them. So maybe before we close out, somebody will pop up backstage and I can bring them up and we can have a really quick discussion about how they feel about mental health. Meanwhile, I'm going to put, let's see, I have one question, but before you answer the question, we want to put up one more word of the, well, yeah, I call it word of the day, but I want to put up the word of the day. There it is. Um, and I want you to think about this question. Consider this question that I'm going to ask, as well as the quote that's going across the screen, and just respond to that. It is for anyone who is hesitant to speak to a professional, to seek professional help. What advice or encouragement would you offer them to take the first step?
Um, I would say what I would offer someone is not be afraid to take this first step in talking to someone, whether it's a family member, whether it's a friend, a close friend, but don't be afraid to take that initial first step. It's okay. Counseling, therapy, talking to someone about what you're going through, what you're facing is very important. So I think getting our minds to think that it's okay to actually go and talk to someone, talk to a professional, talk to someone that can actually give us some profound information about whatever we're going through, depression, stress, anxiety, and just knowing and believing that you can overcome anything you're going through if you think about it in a very positive mindset. So it's how you think about the issue is what's important. So if you think that um, in your mind that, hey, I can go and get some help, and I know that this person, if I don't find the right person this first time, then I'll seek someone else the second time or the third time until I get it right. So I think it's the belief that you feel about yourself, knowing that whatever you're going through, I can overcome this, and I can overcome this with someone that is professional, someone that has the expertise and the experience to give that individual, like myself, or anyone else, some profound information. So, mental health, I'm a very big advocate of mental health, and I push mental health in every aspect, my family life, my personal life, because it's important and it's what we all face in everyday work, school, children. No matter what we are going through, we are all sometimes facing very tough and challenging times. So just believing that you can go and see someone first of all, and then seeking that help. Believing that um, mental health is not, we should want to not just see it as a stigma, but knowing that you can overcome if you trust and believe that I can get help for this issue. It's nothing wrong with me. And that's something that I want to convey to the audience, that it's nothing wrong with anyone if 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 they're going through. We all go through things from time to time. So just because you may be experiencing stress, depression, that doesn't mean that something is wrong with you, and it definitely doesn't mean that you're crazy. We all face it. We all face it at different times. It doesn't matter the color of our skin. It doesn't matter the age that we are. Um, we all go through, and it's okay. But just believe and know that there's help out there, and there's help to help you through to get through whatever you're going through.
All right, thank you. Just to go along with what you said, it's not about, you know, people often say, "Well, what's wrong with you?" And it's never about what's wrong with you. It's all about what happened to you, what you experienced. So we can change that to what happened to you,
Yeah.
to try to get to the bottom or obtain more information, and not just say, because when you say what's wrong with you, that communicates something must be wrong with me. I'm not normal. And
Mhm.
so we don't get we don't people don't open up to that, because a defense mechanism, a wall, if you will, goes up. But when you ask somebody, well, what happened? That's that's like, okay, this person care. They're interested in knowing what my experience has been or what I've been through. And so they're more likely to open up and talk to you about whatever it is that they're experiencing. So we have to be able to rephrase our language in order to assist people as well. And I just would like to tell people that, as you stated, there's a stigma. Oh, I'm weak, or something's wrong with me if I go seek help. When in all actuality, it's more brave to go and ask for help, because you're saying, I know that I need this assistance. I can't do it on my own, so I'm gonna go and I'm gonna ask for this assistance or this resource, because I know that I want to be better. And then once you do that, again, we have to go in thinking, as you said, positive thoughts, that whatever process I'm going to go through, I have to be willing to go through that process in order to get the results that I'm looking for. Because many times people will go into something and then oh, well, that's stupid, that doesn't work. But
Mhm.
if that's the mindset we have when we go into it, it won't work. So we have to rephrase what we're saying, what we're telling ourselves. We have to trust the person that we go to. Again, as you said, we have to trust the provider. And then once we trust the provider, we listen to what guidance we're given, and we do it not just today or tomorrow or next week, but we do it for the long haul, because change is not change until it changes, right? And sometimes that can be a long process.
Mhm.
So thank you for all of your insight, Dr. Harris. We could probably talk a whole nother hour, but I'm sure I'll get in trouble if I do that. So we're going to close it out. But pretty sure this is not the last time you'll be on the Dr. Whitty Today platform. So, but we'll talk about it, and we'll reach out and all of that, and make sure we get you back on the show again. We may talk about mental health, or we may talk about something different, but we will talk. All right. So
Thank
before,
you.
okay, you're welcome. Before we get out of here, please let my listeners and viewers know where they can find you, how they can contact you if they would like, a service that you may provide, or whatever. Just tell them where they can find you.
Yes, so I am on Instagram, and my Instagram name is Dr. Clarissa T. Harris. My Instagram name, and my email address. I do have an email address. It's as harris2401 at yahoo.com.
All right. So there you have it. I want to, first of all, thank you, listeners and viewers, for joining in. I know that you could have chosen anything to be doing at this hour or past hour, so I don't want to take that for granted. I hope that the conversation was a blessing to you, and I hope that you'll join us again. My Dr. Whitty Today comes on every other week, always on Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Our next show is going to be on the 14th of April. We're going to be talking to Eugene Jamil Muhammad, and we're going to have a great conversation. This great young man does a lot with at-risk youth, and also he's in education. So that's going to be our next show on April the 14th. We also got Mark Coley coming up on the 28th. We're going to have a great conversation. And then also, if you want to see what I'm doing, I'm going to be on the doc chat on the 3rd, which is Thursday. I'm going to be on the doc chat with Professor JT with some other fabulous docs. And we're going to be talking about what I would tell my future doctor self. So I look forward to that. If anybody wants to see that, just look up the doc chat on YouTube or LinkedIn, or look up Professor JT. I'm sure you'll see the links on his page. Check it out. It's always an awesome conversation. Again, you can see my name uh, right there. Also, if you can find me on LinkedIn, I'm using my fingers, I always forget. LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Twitter, and Facebook. I got them all. So um, if you want to see more from the Dr. Whitty Today or Dr. Whitty on the Go, um, I can be found on all those platforms. So again, I thank everybody. I hope that you took something from this conversation. Thank everybody for your comments. They were all great. And we will see you guys, on the 14th. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Whitty.
You're welcome. Stand by for the after show, Dr. Harris. Don't go anywhere. Thank you for joining us on Dr. Whitty Today. We appreciate your time, and your viewership is the heartbeat of our show. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and most importantly, subscribe. Your support keeps us going, and we can't wait to have you back. So hit the notification bell to find out each time we air live. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, stay motivated, and stay tuned.